The Dallas-Fort Worth community always says yes to supporting elementary students, and now that yes can win you a brand new 2022 truck. DFW Yes provides school supplies to more than 78,000 students across Texas. Give your yes today by purchasing raffle tickets in our Drive Away for Education truck raffle sponsored by Thomas J. Henry. The grand prize winner will choose from a new Ram, Chevrolet, GMC, Ford, or Nissan truck. Plus, you could win a shopping spree or gas card. Purchase your raffle ticket today at dfwyes.org.
Let's go back for a second, and we're going to call this the humbling.
Let's do it.
If you remember, myself, Mallory, Tepper, Stepp, and Ishmael Johnson, we always make, before the playoffs start, we make our predictions, and you go through and you pick the winner of each region, and then you pick your state championship pick. We will go back, and we'll make state semifinal picks later in this episode, and then next week, once the actual state championship matchups are set, we'll pick those as well. We love making predictions. It's fun. It gives people something to talk about. We end up being bulletin board material.
We get ripped up.
But my favorite thing about Dave Campbell's, as a whole, every person in here, is there is not a single one of us that is scared to admit when we're wrong. And we're not trying to act like we know everything. This is a huge state. We cover over 1,400 schools. But we are not scared to admit when we are wrong, and we check ourselves, and we'll admit it. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to revisit our regional final picks from before the playoffs ever even started.
Let's do it.
So we take a look at this.
The humbling. That's such a perfect title for it because it really does. It humbles you.
Yeah.
Or a lot.
So the way that we broke this down is we went with the actual amount of games that we got correct. We picked 40 different regional final winners. Out of that, you beat me.
By one.
25. You got 25 of your regional picks correct for a whopping 62%. Over half before the playoff ever even starts in every classification is pretty stinking good.
Yeah. And some, of course, were easier than others. You know, we knew going in that there were a couple teams where we could pretty much lightly pin in that they were going to make it at least to the regional finals. But yeah, I mean, 60%, like that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's like 800 different teams we're selecting between, you know?
Exactly. And there were so many different toss-ups and coin flips.
And exactly, there's 4 weeks until you get there. The amount of people that can get hurt, the amount of craziness that can ensue in week one, you know, like
exactly.
You never know. I got 24 out of 40, so 60%, so one less. But here's where I was actually impressed, and this definitely would skewer that 60%. If you want to say, okay, I got 24 exactly correct, you got 25 exactly correct, but then we went a little bit further to see, all right, I missed 16, you missed 15. Out of those, just the ones that we missed, how many of them at least made it to the regional final and lost?
Yes.
Both of us picked 9 teams in those coin flip regional final games that they made it to the regional final, but they did not pull it out. And so if you want to look at it that way, I mean 24 plus 9 and then 25 plus 9, you're batting pretty stinking high.
I think one of the biggest ones was probably Silsby.
Yeah.
I think that all of us except Tepper, because he picked Cuero, you know, they at least made it to the regional finals, but they didn't win. So that's one of them. But that was probably the biggest one, I would say.
Yeah, there was a ton like that. I mean, all of us, has obviously we both 9. I think if you look at the guys' picks too, they're right about that 8-9 range too, of teams that we were like, okay, we feel 90% confident it's going to be these 2 teams in the regional finals. After this, and then,
don't know.
So out of teams that did not even make it to the regional finals that we picked to win the region, you had 6 and I had 7.
Yes.
So we're not batting 100%.
No.
We knew that
not
there was
even
no
close.
way we would bat 100%. Ultimately, I felt good. I don't feel great about the 24 out of 40, but when you add in the 9 of the teams that I did select to win lost in the regional final, I feel a little bit better about it.
Right, and I think you can say this as well. All 6 of my picks that didn't make it to the regional final lost in the regional semifinals.
Yes.
So we didn't lose any in district I don't think by district, we didn't lose any in the area round. I think it was, they at
3
least
rounds
made it,
in.
we're 3 rounds in before we lost a regional final pick.
And it's funny because Tepper brought this up. Tepper and I talked about this a little bit on TFT because I told him we were doing this segment, and he said, he goes, it is actually, he goes, I looked at y'all's numbers because I think him and Steph both had like 26, maybe 27 that they got right. So the margin was very, very, but it was one off by basically everybody at Dave Campbell's. But when you look at it, he goes, you and Mallory are still, we're a lot newer to this than they are. We know what we're talking about, but we have not been doing this for as many years as they have. And he goes, what you'll notice is, he goes, Step and I go very, we don't go for the hopeful dream picks anymore. There were at least 3 of mine, 2, I know 2 for sure, that I said, I do not think this is the best team in the region, but I'm going to put them down, and these are going to be my 2 Cinderella picks, and I'll see how they go.
I bet one of yours was Pottsboro, wasn't it?
One of them was Pottsboro.
Yes.
One of them was Gregory Portland.
Okay.
And then if I had to add another one to that, I would say either Wichita Falls, Hershey, or North Crowley.
Yeah, I picked Hershey too, in that sense. Yeah.
I thought that Prosper was a better team than North Crowley, but Ray Gates had me so bought in on this historic run that I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to be one different. So he goes, if you look at Step and I's, we don't do that anymore. Yeah. He was like, but y'all are still young and having fun. Yeah. And so y'all do that. So he was like, I was actually really impressed with y'all's numbers, considering there were definitely dreamer picks in there with you. And I was like, yeah, but that's what we do now. Exactly. Our numbers are lower, knowing that we did that on purpose. So maybe we'll get to the point where being right matters more than the hopeful dream picks. But for now, we're still bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and ready to try.
We've got hearts in our eyes.
If you get that right, it's like betting on it's like betting in March Madness.
Right.
Like, if you get that 16 seed, the payoff is so good, it's like,
but it's not going to happen very
often. All we're betting for here is bragging rights, but it's so worth it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It really is. And it's definitely, that's a good title for the segment, The Humbling, because you really do get humbled.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, if we're going to call ourselves the experts, then we need to have numbers to back it up. Right. So it's like, hey, we're not scared to admit I got that one wrong.
And what's really impressive too, I think, just how close our numbers came out to be, just me and you. We didn't sit there and pick these games together.
No, everyone did them separately, and we were all within separately. Like 2 or 3 picks of each other.
Right, so we didn't come in on a Saturday and be like, all right, let's go ahead and make our picks together. Oh, you got this one wrong. Well, I'm going to go with them over them.
Mm-mm.
We made them all
and you just
separately,
send it in.
and you just send them to Tepper. You make the graphics, and that's kind of how it worked. But I think that's really impressive how we got so close together, but completely
we didn't talk about,
Right, I did send you that one. I think it was 3A Division 1 Region 2, maybe?
Yes.
With Whitesboro.
Yes, Pottsboro.
Grandview, Malakoff. I was like, who in the hell am I supposed to pick out of this region? Because I have no idea. That's when you said you were going with Pottsboro in that instance. But I was like, I'm going to flip a coin because I don't know.
I told you, I said there was like 3 different regions that I had to go back to. Like I was sitting on my couch making my picks, and I was like, all right, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put a little asterisk here, and I'm going to go back to these. And that was one of them. And so that's honestly, if I get to a region like that, that's when I started picking more of my Cinderella hopeful, because I'm like, there's 4 teams in this region that could win. Which one do I think is like the least likely to do it?
Right.
All right. This is going to be my Cinderella pick.
Yes. I like it.
Anyway, there you go. The Humbling, taking a look back at our regional final results before we make more predictions and end up wrong again and get absolutely roasted for it on social media. All right. We'll get to our picks in a little bit, but we got a couple of different, like, a little bit more quick hitter categories. Yeah. So I sent these to you, and I was like, hey, tell me what you think on these categories. So first off, we're going to go with, when you take a look at the 20 state semifinalists from 6A to 2A, if you had to circle one that when they won, you look back on and go, oh, wow. And I'm not saying that it's necessarily surprising from what they've been doing in a playoff stance, but if you go back to when we were making those predictions, or the beginning of the year when we were making our preseason rankings, this team came out of nowhere.
Yes.
What would it be?
I think you got to go with Harmony.
Yeah.
They started 0-4 in the season, and now let me go back and look at who they lost to. But, I mean, right then and there, you can take a look at their season as a whole, and they're 9-5.
Yeah.
Yeah. Start off the season 0-4, lost to Hooks, White Oak, Beckville, and DeKalb.
DeKalb.
Is that how you pronounce it? DeKalb? Yeah. You can't tell me week 4 of the season that this team is going to be playing in the state semifinals, because I would not have believed you. They have been excellent this year, and their win over Newton last week. I mean, I think most of us picked Newton to come out of the regional finals.
Yeah.
But they went out there and just dominated that Newton team. Completely surprising. That's the Cinderella that I have been most impressed with this season, I think.
Yeah, I think too, they're doing it under first-year head coach Jeremy Jenkins.
Yes.
I mean, that in and of itself, this is their first state semifinal in school history, so they're making all of this. But yeah, especially because, I mean, you look back at their schedule too of what they did in the playoffs. You saw a team like West Rusk play in person.
Right.
And
I mean, go ahead.
I was like, I didn't think they were going to win that one. I sure as heck didn't think they were going to win the Newton game. Like, the West Rusk game, I could have been like, okay, this Harmony team's, they're hot right now.
Right.
You know, maybe this can happen. Up against Newton, I was like, man,
There's no way.
an unbelievable season. You know, you're making history. You make it to the regional finals, all that stuff. And then all of a sudden, we're sitting at the Alamo Dome, and we look at Slack, and we see Harmony. And I was like, holy cow, they're going to do it.
Right. I think what's most impressive, too, is they have played Hooks twice this year. Once in the regular season, which was their first game of the season that they ended up losing. And then they played them, was that in the area round? Probably in the area round, it looks like. Yes, in the area round. And they dominated that team. They lost by 4 points in the regular season to this Hooks team. And then they come out and just completely get revenge on this team and beat them by 14, 15 points. I mean, what an impressive squad. I mean, talk about growing as a team throughout the season. I mean, you try and talk about it with every team, right? You know, you obviously are going to grow. You're going to get better as the season goes on. But Harmony is a perfect example of that. They have just blossomed into this dominant force that is going to give Poth a run for their money.
I think that is absolutely the right answer. Obviously, if we're going to go with a secondary answer here, New Home is a surprise coming out. They've looked outstanding. That win last week against, I picked Wellington to win the region. I didn't think that there was much of a doubt about that, and if I did, I didn't think it was going to be New Home that we were talking about. Their quarterback has been outstanding. Brazos Beck, he threw for 308 yards, 4 touchdowns. But here's the big thing: when you're telling me that their defense forced 4 different turnovers on that Wellington offense, I mean, that was jaw-dropping stuff right there. They've heated up at the right time. I mean, they've been a good team all year. I guess let's see what the record is. Yeah, 13-1. They dropped their first game to Haskell 27-7, and since then have just absolutely mulled over basically everyone that they've played. It was a really close game. They squeaked it out by 1 point over Sunray, another 14-8 win over Clarendon, which was kind of when I think people really started to pay attention to them. But that defensive performance last week against Wellington was just gobsmacking. I mean, it truly, truly was. And they're going to have to do it again if they're going to take down this Albany squad, because the thing that I always love watching about Albany is they're such a small team. Everyone, when you get to that level, but they always have massive linemen. I've seen Albany play in person 3 or 4 times, I think, at this point. Always consistently unbelievable offensive line play, and so forcing turnovers is going to be key. If New Home can continue to win in the turnover battle, they're going to put up a really good fight against Albany. I mean, I had them completely crossed off the list, being honest, when I knew that they were playing Wellington. They can give this Albany squad a run for their money if they force the turnovers.
And I don't know if you mentioned this, but New Home is playing with their backup quarterback.
Yeah.
Which is even more impressive if you need anything more to add to that resume there, is they're playing with they beat a really good Wellington squad with their backup quarterback.
And it's not like their starter played for 3 quarters and they already basically had it won and then the backup came in and finished it off.
He played for the whole game.
He played the whole game and threw for 308 yards and 4 touchdowns. And we were like, oh my gosh, that's impressive. Oh my God, they're doing it with the backup quarterback.
Yeah, incredible. That's definitely like the the second answer to that question is New Home, the 2 Cinderella teams of this year.
I think that's it. The rest of it, I wouldn't say. There are some that are very chalky. Very chalky, and then there are some where
Glen Rose,
like
you could probably pencil in Glen Rose as like a
surprising
team.
as a like, oh, okay, I can see that. Like, good, I'm happy for them that they made it to this point type of stuff. Like, you see North Shore and Westlake and you go, So we called that in December 19th of 2022 after the state championship ended, you know, like that kind of stuff. But yeah, definitely the 2 biggest surprise. All right. So there are the 2 biggest kind of surprising teams to be there, the underdog mentality, and the ones that have the right to wear the cape that they've been the underdogs all year.
Yep.
Like
we have actually been sleeping on those.
Yes,
you know,
110%.
That is the one phrase that everybody likes to use in the playoffs is, oh, you're sleeping on my team. Well, yes, we did sleep on Harmony and New Home, so we can use that there.
Okay, so there's that. The next one we're going to do, I want to hear out of all 20 games this week, if you have to choose one, and that's damn near impossible because they're all so good.
Yeah.
But if you have to choose one that you are most excited for, maybe it's not even because they're the 2 best teams, just the one that you are genuinely most excited to tune into, which one is it?
I think you got to go with Longview Aledo because we mentioned it earlier. This is a state championship matchup. Both are state caliber teams, and it really sucks that we're not going to get to see this game at AT&T Stadium. One of them has to lose. But I think you got to go. I mean, there's just such star power on both of these squads. They have done an incredible job just during the season so far. I think you have to go. I think you got to go with that one. I mean, of course, they're all really good, but I think you have to go with this one in the sense that this is a state championship matchup here.
Yeah.
You know?
I think an unbelievable. I'll give another one that it is such a toss-up between that one and the one that I'll say in a minute, but the coaching pedigree that you get in that game between Coach Buck and Coach King, I mean, elite. It's not that much of style clashing between the 2 of them, to be honest, you know, but I do really like the matchup of Jalen Hale on the outside. I think that maybe at the receiver spot, you can say that Longview's a little deeper. I mean, Taylor Tatum is fantastic. Like, it's hard to compare. Like, Haas Haney has been unbelievable running the ball. He can also throw the ball. Like, both of these teams bring so much star power and depth in every single position. And the other thing is, I can't picture either of these 2 teams losing.
I can't either.
Like, trying to figure out, there are some times where it's like, okay, they're both really good at this, but this one team has an issue here. Like, here is the singular issue that I think will make the difference in this game. I think it is so stinking hard to pick that.
The thing with Longview, and this, I'll just give you a little inside. I picked Longview in this game. They haven't really been tested this year. This is, I guess you could say against
the Lancaster game
was pretty close.
The Timberview game last week was as big of a test as they've faced if it hasn't been that Lancaster game in the regular season.
I think Longview is the better team, but Aledo's been tested this year. They've lost. They started the season 0-2. Again, they lost to Parish Episcopal, and then they lost to Denton Geyer, I believe, or was it Denton Ryan? I think it was Denton Geyer.
Geyer, they beat Ryan.
Yeah, that's right. They beat Ryan in
district.
District, right? So I don't know which one you want to go with, but either way, I think this game is going to be just fantastic.
Yeah, I think that the Longview defense has been I picked Longview too. I'll go ahead and give that away. Yeah. The Longview defense has been outstanding. The one thing that they could do to hurt themselves is to get off to a slow start.
Yes.
They have pushed it a little bit getting off to a slow start, but on the other side of that, here's where the even thing comes out. The other side of that, you look at what Aledo did last week against Burleson Centennial. They came out hot. They came out ready to go. 21-0, easy peasy. Centennial pulled it all the way back up and tied the game.
Back, right.
Now, Aledo has that thing in the second half where they just absolutely dominate people. Longview does the same thing. But if one or the other was to come out in a slow start,
which one
you're both going to score. You're both going to put up a good amount of points in the second half. So you have to play. This is a full 4-quarter game, which any state semifinal should be. But this legitimately, it will be the team that doesn't have a bad quarter.
Right.
Because it's hard to come back from that when both teams are going to play absolutely 3 full quarters.
Right. And this is also a game where you can't make mistakes because that other team is going to take advantage of that. So this has to be a clean, mistake-free game. You got to limit the turnovers because the other team's going to be able to take advantage of that, especially if you're making turnovers in your own territory. You got to limit the mistakes, limit the turnovers because it could get ugly.
Yep. So the other one, as I try to remove spam of our YouTube page.
I know, I've been trying to do that too, but it's
the other one that's in the toss-up for me is Timpson Refugio.
Yep, that was my other one.
I have specifically been beating the drum on that specific matchup all year long. Now, I thought it was going to be Shiner Refugio.
Timpson.
Shiner Timpson.
We both did.
Yeah. I wanted to see. I really wanted nothing against Refugio. They looked fantastic last week. Refugio looks fantastic. I personally, for my own enjoyment, just wanted to see Dalton Brooks, Terry Bussey one more time, because I think that it was proven that I think Dalton Brooks was the best player on the field last week, but I think that Refugio was the better team all around. I don't think Refugio has that one specific star-studded player. They're all studs. Great. You know, it's like Shiner and Timpson both had that. Here's our 1A guy, and then here's everybody else who is also fantastic, but they're not the 1A guy. Refugio's just solid in every phase.
Right. And sometimes that beats just having that one guy.
Exactly, yeah. If they're all operating right, and you can stop the one
shut
guy,
him down.
then you're good.
Exactly.
But I've been looking forward to this one for so long. Like, I'm excited that it's finally here.
Right.
You know?
And we both picked Shiner.
Yes.
To make it to the regional or to make it past the regional finals, because I think we both went with the narrative that you can't beat a good team twice, especially in this scenario when Shiner has the dude in Dalton Brooks.
Yep.
But we were wrong.
Yep.
We slept on Refugio.
It's the same way. I mean, honestly, like I go back to when, and this was maybe not the last year before your time, but I go back to when Rodwell Freeman for Mart, you didn't bet against him.
Right.
He had won 3 state championships. It's his senior year, just like it's Dalton Brooks' senior year. And you're going, there's just no way. You know, like, I can't imagine a team, a time, anything where Rodwell Freeman is there. And then Windthorst went out and beat him in the state championship.
Yes.
It was the exact same thing of going, he's Dalton Brooks. You can't stop Dalton Brooks.
No.
You know, like there's not a world in where Dalton Brooks doesn't get back to AT&T Stadium in his
senior year.
In his senior year, and maybe that clouded my judgment a little bit, and I didn't take Refugio as seriously as I should have because I had that idea in my brain, and the wires did not compute any other way. But this one will be very, very good, and this is a very, very exciting matchup. Also, Terry Bussey's back next year too, which is just mind-boggling.
It's insane. Yeah, and then what do you do with this game? I mean, do you take a Terry Bussey, a team that has that guy, or do you take Refugio, a team that you know can shut down a team that has that guy? They can target that guy and shut him down.
Because they just did it against Dalton Brooks. And then it's another conversation of who do you think was better this year, Terry Bussey or Dalton Brooks? So it's like
there's so many questions.
Never ending, my friends. It's never ending. This is the beautiful thing about this year is you can talk yourself into and out of everything within the span of like 2 sentences.
Exactly.
So there you go. I think those are the 2 highest, most anticipated games. One big school, one small school. All right. One more here before we get to our predictions and round this all out. I told you that I wanted to, we obviously just talked about the game as a whole, but when you take a look at the 20 games happening and you take a look at one position group against one other position group.
It's hard to pick.
There's a lot. There's a lot of really good ones. If you had to say your most anticipated strength-on-strength position group matchup out of any of the games, what are you going with?
I like star power. I do. I'm not going to lie. I like the recruiting side of things. I love college football.
I think I know where you're going.
I'm going to go with DeSoto's wide receivers.
Okay.
Denton Geyer's defensive backs.
Interesting. I would have flipped it.
Really? Okay.
I think
you're
I
going to go with
it.
Peyton Bowen.
Yeah.
For Denton Geyer.
Going up against
Jonte Cook.
Yeah.
I can only imagine that they're going to be one-on-one with each other.
They have to.
You have to. I mean, that's your best defensive back. That's your best wide receiver. You're going up against each other at that point. I am really, really interested to see that matchup and how that plays out between those two, because there's going to be words exchange back. There's a lot chirping on the line there. There's going to be a lot of chirping. They're both incredible athletes.
Where is Peyton Bowen going? I can't remember.
I'll have to look that up. But nonetheless, I mean, it's just such a good matchup between. I mean, there's going to be a lot of chirping on this field no matter what in this game, but I think I have to go with those two position groups.
Oh, God, he's going to Notre Dame.
That's right. Oh, but well, put it in pencil because there's rumors that he might flip. But, yeah, he's going to Notre Dame. So, great matchup. Great matchup there. So
that is.
And then Jonte Cook's going to Texas, obviously. Yeah. Everybody knows that. But, yeah.
Which is a long-time rivalry in and of itself. And not that they play each other all the time, but you ask Longhorn fans, they don't like Notre Dame fans. You ask Notre Dame fans, they don't like Longhorn fans.
Right. I mean, both programs go back so far. They're both really old college football programs and traditional. So.
Yeah, that's the correct answer. If you're looking for star-studded thing.
Which I was. So.
So I'll go something that's not star-studded, and it goes back to what I was saying earlier. I have been looking forward to 3A Division I, the regional final of it, or the state semifinal of it forever. I am, after seeing Edna's lines in the trenches, their lines on either side of the ball mixed with Franklin's lines on either side of the ball. Like, I think that the Edna offensive line is the best unit on the field, and I wish I could see the offensive line play against the Franklin running backs. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's never going to happen. But Franklin's running backs against the Edna defensive front sounds like a very, very intriguing matchup. I am excited to see that one. I love watching lines play. I'm a nerd that thinks that linemen deserve more love.
In the trenches, man. Just last week when we saw him play against Llano, I mean, it makes your jaw drop that there are guys that big on the whole team, rather.
They were huge.
I mean, the entire team was huge, and they're a 3A.
Huge.
I mean, they're rivaling a 5A school when it comes to size.
Mm-hmm.
Huge. So that's a really good pick there, because that's going to be really interesting, because Franklin, they run the slot T, right? I mean, they like to run the ball, so that's going to be interesting to see how well they can stop them based on their size.
Yeah, I love to watch. I love to watch Franklin operate. Like, if you hate the slot T, okay. Regardless, you look at it as like a legitimate piece of art. Like, they run it so well, and Bryson Washington is so much fun to watch. To see any I also love, and this is just me being me, I love watching teams go up against the slot T, because it's kind of one of those things, like, have they ever played something like that before? Like, I think Edna's a hard-hitting team that's not going to have any issue with it, but there are times where people go up against it, and it's instant. They're counted out of the game because they're not going to figure it out, you know?
It's a hard scheme to learn, and there's not many teams in Texas high school football that run it. It's more so the small schools. So, yeah, it's interesting to see how you game plan for that. I mean, what are the conversations like in the coaching room?
I mean, this feels to me a lot like how we were looking at Sauk and Liberty Hill last year, because we're going, okay, Liberty Hill runs the slot T better than anyone. They are insanely fast. They're a lot faster than Sauk's defense was last year. But Sauk was so big up front that it's almost like, okay, hey, look, play assignment football, play to your keys, and stay in your little area, do your job, and it works because we're so much bigger than they are.
Right.
And I feel like that's where Edna is. If they start trying to get fancy with it, then Franklin's going to do what Franklin does.
Right.
If Edna keeps their eyes on this is your guy. Just tackle him. Don't even try to look for the ball, because guess what? You're not going to find it.
You got to play man at that point. You can't play zone.
We're bigger than them. All we need to do is create the barrier to not let them rush one up the middle. And Bryson Washington is going to get his own. There's no doubt there. But Enda has a good shot if they just keep their eyes focused on what they're doing. I think, well, you know what? Here, we'll get into the next part of this.